Hi friends, my name is Larry Miller. I will be your guide through this course. And for the last about 40 years, I have been helping corporations and other organizations, governments too, improve their performance, and primarily improve their performance through their leadership skills, the leadership process, and how they manage human performance or the culture of the organization. And one thing I found, and others have found, is that there is a huge problem with executing strategy. It's one thing to come up with a strategy of who we want to be and where we want to go in the future. It's an entirely different thing to get there, to make it happen. It's sort of like, it's easy to say, I want to lose 20 pounds or 5 pounds or 100 pounds. That's not hard to say. It's pretty easy to set that goal, but the process of making that goal actually happen, executing the behavior, the performance that's required to get to the goal, that's where we all tend to fall down. Well, this course is about executing strategy, and by the time we're through, you're going to have a plan for exactly how to execute your strategy. And it's a plan that will work, I can guarantee it. Now, in this lecture, I want to give you a basic mental framework, a very simple and basic mental framework to think about strategy and strategy execution. In the next lecture, I want to talk about the problem. And there is a problem with strategy execution, and I want to explain why that problem exists and what we're going to do to overcome that problem. So, first idea that I'd like you to think about is you can think about strategy in two types. First, there is where do we want to go, right? And think about that. Let's just say we were a restaurant, and we cooked, Chinese food. We were a Chinese restaurant. And we're very successful. We're making money and people love our food and everybody's happy. It's all good, right? And we say, gee, we can be more. We can do something beyond what we're currently doing now. So let's have a strategy for expansion. And you could do one of two things. You could say, okay, let's open a second, third, fourth, fifth store around the city that we're in. That's one possible strategy. Or another possible strategy would be, okay, well, we're a Chinese food restaurant now. Let's open a French restaurant, Indian restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, and a steakhouse. Because we're already doing Chinese food, and we're sort of bored with Chinese food. So let's develop 4 other restaurants of those 4 other types. Which of those 2 strategies do you think is most likely to work? And what's the problem with the second strategy? And the problem with the second strategy is that it requires different skills, different capabilities. We know how to do Chinese food. Do we know how to do French food? Do we know how to do Indian food? Probably not. Now, could we develop those capabilities? And now introducing you to the word capabilities. Sure, it's possible, but there's a cost. Anytime you have to develop radically different capabilities, there's a cost to that development, where to take our current menu of, let's say, Chinese food or Mexican food and develop 4 more restaurants like that, there would be lower cost and higher probability of success, right? So when you develop a strategy, you build on existing capabilities, although you inevitably stretch those capabilities, or you have to develop some new and additional capabilities, but not completely different capabilities, right? Now, 2 kinds of strategy, external and internal strategy. And this is where the problem begins to come. To develop the external strategy of saying, let's have 5 more restaurants, or let's double our business, whatever business you're in, it's fairly easy. External strategy is about the marketplace. It's externally focused. In other words, what are we going to do for our customers in the future, for our marketplace? What is our marketplace going to be? Who are our customers going to be? How are we going to be positioned? Are we going to be a Red Roof Inn or a Ritz-Carlton, for example, in the hotel space? They're both successful, but completely different positioning in terms of how they're viewed in the marketplace and who their customers are, right? That's positioning. What are our products going to be that we're going to provide to our marketplace, our customers, or what services are we going to provide to our customers? And how are we going to fulfill financial needs? How are we going to meet the needs of shareholders or the needs of our owners? That is all externally facing strategy. Now, in order to achieve any significant strategy, you don't get there without the capabilities. And the capability strategy and culture strategy are internal. You know, somebody once said, and I don't know whether this makes any sense or not, but it's sort of a fun saying. Somebody once said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Meaning, very simply, that you can have all the strategy in the world, but if your culture does not support that strategy, you're not going to achieve that strategy. So you have to develop a culture. You have to change your culture. Whenever you have a strategy that implies a change in the business, growing it or doing it differently or a different market, you have to change the culture to match, to be aligned with your business strategy. Does that make sense? So there's culture and there's capabilities. Capabilities meaning what are we able to do? And we have to align that internal and external. Very often they're not aligned. And very often senior executive teams are great at coming up with that external, where do we want to go and who do we want to be in the future? And they may involve a small group of executives or external consultants and helping them come up with that and then present it to the organization. And then the organization says, gee, you know, that's great, but how the heck are we going to get there, right? So there's that misalignment. That's what this course is about. This course is about aligning internal strategy, culture, and capabilities to meet the needs of the external strategy, because that's the only way you're going to get there. I hope that makes sense. Now, when we think about internal strategy, culture, and capabilities, I'm going to just introduce you to two words that I'm going to use over and over again as we go through this course. Technical and social. In every organization, there are technical processes, technical systems. And the technical system, if you just take a factory, for example, how is equipment laid out? What is the flow of work through that equipment? Who does what jobs? How are those jobs defined? All those things are the technical system. You know, this picture is a picture of an airplane cockpit, right? It's a good example of a technical system, right? And yes, the technical system has to be well designed. The processes have to be well designed to be capable of meeting our strategy. But the social system, which is the culture, who cares? Not an unimportant question. Who cares? Who knows? Who has to act on what? Who decides about what? How do people work together? Do we work as a team? Do we work alone? Who communicates what to whom? That's all social system stuff. It's all the people side of things. Now, they're both important, and they have to be aligned. The technical and the social system have to be aligned. If, for example, you redesign the cockpit or the factory and the layout of equipment, you have to retrain people. And you have to make clear decisions about who's going to make what decisions, who's going to be in control of what, who's going to be responsible for what information are people going to get. All social system stuff that supports the technical system. So alignment this way and then alignment that way. Does that make sense? Alignment between internal and external, and then alignment between social and technical systems. They're all good, they're all important. And if we do that well, we align those things, we have a unified strategy, all pointing in the same direction, and we will succeed in the execution of our strategy. That's the goal of this course. That's what we're going to do. Now, the plan. There are basically two major sections of the course, or stages of the course, if you will, which are broken down into subsections, okay? And the big first half of the course is about assessing. Where are we? And as we assess where we are, we're thinking about what we have to do, right? Out of assessing our strengths and weaknesses, threats and opportunities, comes the idea about what we have to do to get where we want to go. So we're going to assess the culture, we're going to assess leadership, we're going to assess the social and technical system, and out of that will come a plan to change, to transform the culture. The second half of this course is about transformation. It's about actually executing the change that's required to achieve the business strategy. I hope that makes sense. Here are the first three sections of the course are basically introduction. I want to define our terminology so we're speaking the same language. I want to talk about the business plan and the components of the business plan. The primary purpose of this course is not to develop the external strategy, the business plan, but to enable that strategy. But you got to start with a clear business plan. So I want to talk about what would be a clear business plan that then we can say, do we have the capabilities and do we have the culture to achieve that? So sections 4 through 6, leadership and life cycles. We want to explore where we are in a corporate or organizational life cycle. I want to explore the forms of capital, the assets that we have in the organization. And I want to talk about lean culture, a Toyota production system. And in each of these 3 sections, I'm going to give you an assessment tool, a way to assess your culture. So you can say, yeah, we really need to work on that, or we need to work on this. And then sections 7 through 9 are about the actual transformation process. And I'm going to give you a 4D model that will be a sort of a simple way to follow it. That is discovery, discovering the current state, dreaming about the ideal state, the future state, designing that state, technical and social, and then deploying and developing it over time, right? This is a process of engaging people. The degree to which you're successful at executing strategy will also be the degree to which you engage the entire organization in thinking about how we're going to get there and laying out plans for how we're going to get there. Engagement is absolutely critical to successful execution. So that's the curriculum, that's the plan. Now let's go on to the next lecture and let's talk about why there's a problem and what the solution to the problem is. Thanks.